Bienvenidas y bienvenidos a Agrovoltaicos sin Fronteras. Es un gusto tenerlos hoy con nosotras y nosotros en esta sesión titulada Ganadería y Pastoreo Solar, Livestock and Solar Grazing. Mi nombre es Thalita and I will be facilitating today's session together with Adrián Garcia. Estaremos atentos al chat durante toda la sesión, so if you have any questions or comments in Spanish, Portuguese, or English, please feel free to share them. Con gusto apoyaremos con la traducción para nuestras y nuestros ponentes. En esta sesión de hoy abordaremos una de las sinergias más interesantes dentro de los sistemas agrovoltaicos, which is the integration of grazing and livestock with solar power plants, no solo como una solución para el manejo de la vegetación, sino también como una estrategia que puede generar beneficios ambientales, operativos y productivos. Con ellos contamos hoy con two speakers with extensive hands-on experience in this field. Stacie Peterson from the American Solar Grazing Association and Rodrigo Panham from EDP Renewables Brazil. So now I'll hand things over to my colleague, Adrián Garcia, who will introduce the first speaker of today's session.
Thank you, Thalita. Gracias, Thalita. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Stacie Peterson. She is the Executive Director of the American Solar Grazing Association, an organization of sheep farmers with more than 1,000 members. She is a nationally recognized leader in agrovoltaics and previously served as the developer and director of the Agri-Solar Clearinghouse and director of energy programs at the National Center for Appropriate Technology. She has developed and led national, regional, and state-level energy programs that engage communities, support rural businesses, and provide vital education and technical assistance. She also holds an interdisciplinary PhD from the University of Montana. Welcome, Stacie, and thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
Our second speaker will be Rodrigo Antonio Panham. He's an asset manager at EDP Renewables, responsible for the performance and optimization of large-scale solar and wind assets in South America. With a strong background in operations, contract management, and project governance, he leads initiatives focused on OPEX optimization, operational efficiency, and value creation across the asset life cycle. In addition to his asset management role, Rodrigo acts as a PMO and business process improvement lead, driving digitalization and automation, enabling data-driven decision-making, and improved governance in O&M processes. Wow, these long words, technological words. His recent work includes innovative approaches to vegetation management in solar plants, such as robotization, GPS-guided equipment, and livestock-based solutions, as well as initiatives involving predictive maintenance, contract optimization, and technical performance improvement. His talk is Sheep Grazing in Centralized PV Power Plants. Welcome, Rodrigo. Bienvenido, Rodrigo. Bienvenida, Stacie. Stacie es la directora ejecutiva de la Asociación Americana de Solar Grazing. Esta es una organización de granjeros de ovejas con más de 1,000 miembros. Ella tiene reconocimiento nacional como un líder en agrivoltaico y previamente sirvió como la desarrolladora y directora del Agri-Solar Clearinghouse y director de los programas de energía al Centro Nacional de Apropiación de Tecnología. Ella ha desarrollado y liderado programas nacionales, regionales y a nivel estatal que involucra comunidades, apoya agronegocios rurales y provee educación vital y asistencia técnica. Ella tiene un doctorado de la Universidad de Montana y su plática de hoy es American Solar Grazing y Growing, que tiene que estar relacionada con las aplicaciones de agrivoltaica en este campo. Rodrigo Antonio Panham es Asset Manager en EDP Renovables y él es responsable del desempeño y optimización a gran escala de los bienes solares en Sudamérica, con un fuerte background en operaciones, manejo de contratos, administración de proyectos, y él lleva iniciativas enfocadas en OPEX Optimization, eficiencia operacional y creación de valor a través de todo el ciclo de vida de los bienes agrivoltaicos. Además, tiene un papel de administración. Además de su papel de administrador, actúa como PMO en Business Processes Improvement, y donde lleva la operación esa es la palabra larga, Data Driven Decision Making and Improvement. Él lleva básicamente la administración de los procesos para la toma de decisiones y la gobernanza. Su trabajo más reciente incluye perspectivas innovadoras al manejo de la vegetación en plantas solares y robotización, equipo guiado por GPS, soluciones basadas en livestock, en ganado, y también iniciativas involucrando mantenimiento predictivo, optimización de contratos y desarrollo y mejora del desempeño técnico. Y su plática es Sheep Grazing in Centralized PV Power Plants. Bienvenido, Rodrigo, y muchas gracias a ambos. Te paso la
Gracias.
orden, Thalita.
Gracias, Adrián.
Okay, so now our first speaker is Stacie Peterson, and el título de su charla es Sheep Grazing in Centralized Photovoltaic Power Plants. So Stacie, thank you very much for your participation, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. You can see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me, and thanks for letting me be a part of this great group. Thank you for the introduction. You heard background on my education. I'm from Montana. That's what it looks like in July. So it doesn't look like that right now. It's covered in snow. But if you'd ever like to come, I'd suggest July because it looks like that. My background in my education is in environmental engineering, and then I did my doctoral work looking at interdisciplinary studies. I'm really interested in seeing how different disciplines can work together to do better. And so you see where agrivoltaics really, that was really exciting to me when I learned about it. Some of the research that I did in my master's work was looking at domestic pets, particularly dogs, as bioindicators of contamination. And I'll talk a little bit at the end of this presentation about how that's weaving back into some of the research that we're doing at ASGA. Professionally, I've worked as an environmental historian and as a mine waste research program director. I worked as an energy program director, and then as a part of that, I got to be a leader in the AgriSolar Clearinghouse. I'll talk about that in the next slide. And now I'm the ASGA Executive Director. So I know that this is a very visually overwhelming slide, but it's sort of intentionally made that way because I didn't have one way to talk about the agrivoltaic work that I've been able to do the last 6 years. There was a whole group of about 40 organizations that were a part of the clearinghouse that made it great and made us be able to do excellent work and really create a great network. And I got to learn so much from all of them and see what a difference agrivoltaics can make all around the country. I had to learn from Greg and his team and all the great work that you're doing in Biosphere and up at Jack Solar Garden, and learn from Jordan Macknick and the team at NREL, Rum Davis and all of the wonderful people up in Minnesota doing great work, and going all the way up to Massachusetts and looking at the social science that's being done by people like Alexis Piscaris. And we went all the way on these tours that we did. We did 50 different tours to look at this and to see how this is working. And we did farm to table work too. And we really saw the difference this could make in communities and the difference this made for the soil, for the water, for the energy. And as this program ended, it ended about 1.5 years ago, I really didn't want to stop working in it because I saw what a difference this could make. And so I decided I wanted to devote the rest of my career to it. And luckily, at the same time, ASGA was looking for an executive director. So Lexi Hain, who does a lot of agrivoltaics in the United States, approached me and asked if I'd want to do that. And I did. So that's where I'm at now. This is the American Solar Grazing Association. We're a farmer-founded and farmer-led organization of about 1,400 members. We'd love it if anybody would like to join it. We're working on some international chapters. So we're really hoping to grow that membership. We support all agrivoltaics. We provide in-depth technical assistance and training. We also do research with groups like the Nature Conservancy, NREL, the National Lab of the Rockies now, American Farmland Trust, NYSERDA, Cornell, and Virginia Tech. It's a really fun group. We have meetups. We do everything we can to support each other and really provide a great network. So we're hoping that you'll join too. Some examples of research that we've done. This is a little bit, is about 2 years old. So it's grown quite a lot since we did this census. We did this work with NREL. But at that time, we found that there was about 130,000 acres in solar grazing in the United States. That's about 45 hectares, 46 maybe. So it's grown probably at least 30% since this was done. We're going to hopefully redo this census in another year or two and try to do this like a census would be done every 5 years. A lot of this is being done in California and Texas, and that's because that's a lot of where the solar is, a lot of where the utility scale solar is, particularly. So some interesting demographics that we found in this. We found a much younger age for the grazers. The typical age of an American farmer is 59 and a half. We're seeing ages down into the 30s. And a lot of that is because there's a lower barrier to entry for getting into solar grazing. Folks don't have to purchase the land to do this work. They can be on solar sites, having access to grazing lands and getting paid for vegetation management services. Solar companies have a budget in their operation and management to manage the vegetation. And that is what pays the solar grazers for the vegetation management services. So this is really a nice opportunity for younger farmers, especially farmers that don't have access to lands. They're not inheriting it or they just can't purchase more lands. This is a really nice way to get into this. We're also seeing a lot more females do this. Typically in the United States, about 11% of farmers are female. So we're seeing around 33%. And I think it's also important to note that a lot of this is being done on utility scale. You get a lot of questions in agrivoltaics about how does this scale? Well, solar grazing scales very well. And we do this well at utility scale. So the census is available on our website if you'd like to read more. It's a pretty great report. Other things that we offer educational programming. We do one webinar a month for the public, and then we do several others for our members. An example of the type of work we do is solar grazers give webinars, extension specialists, academics, researchers, solar experts. But then we also do targeted things for our members like mentoring calls that we do once a month with people like Cameron Marley from the American Land Board. That's a USDA program. So we try to give a lot of really good in-depth technical assistance, and then we do things like what makes an ideal vegetation management specialist. So solar grazers really know how to prep for working on these sites. And in addition to that, we offer certifications. We do these around the country, and we do these from two perspectives. We do solar grazer certifications. So these are for folks that know how to graze, but maybe they've not worked on a solar site before. So they need to understand all of the safety, that goes with that. And there's a lot to being on an industrial scale solar site. And then we also do certifications for solar professionals and solar firms. That one's called What to Expect When You're Expecting Sheep. That's an example of one of ours that we just did in Virginia. We'll be doing these with a couple of the RE pluses around the states. And then we're going to announce tomorrow another series that we'll be doing that's a little bit more in-depth solar grazing certification, and it will also have a virtual component. So more to come on that, but we'll be announcing that tomorrow. We also do best practices work. An example of that is the stuff that we've done with NREL. We on our website now, you can click through a really nice high-level overview of the different stages of setting up and maintaining a solar site and how to have best practices for that. And we have a standardized checklist. This is geared towards lots of different folks. The one that I'm showing here has social factors that you'll want to consider. and how to evaluate a site too. So it's not just setting up the site, it's how to evaluate a solar grazing site. This is about 20, 25 pages, I believe, and you can look at this. There's several of the checklist factors are for solar grazers, some are for solar professionals, some are for community members, community planners, things like that. So these are more metrics around best practices that we have available. We also offer contracts and templates. A lot of times this is a barrier to folks when they first get started. They just don't know what to do, how to get this going. So we have example contracts for solar grazers. We also have them for solar beekeepers. If you go to the solar grazing section of our website, you'll find those. In partnership with NREL, we developed a really in-depth set of design drawings. These are engineering design drawings that are a solar grazing site and how to set it up so that it goes well for the solar grazer and for the solar professional. So these are really nice in-depth drawings that solar folks can take and adapt to their site. So these are really valuable if you get in and ever work with solar design drawings. It's pretty in-depth work. So those are available to our members. We also offer fact sheets. So I know a lot of people don't want to dive into 25 pages of checklists. So we're trying to develop really bite-sized pieces of information on specific topics. So maybe you just want to know about livestock guardian dogs, or maybe you want to know about parasites. These are available to you. We'll be releasing about one of these a month. If you want to hear what we're releasing, just sign up for our newsletter and you'll see what we release. We do that about quarterly. A series that we're doing here that we're really proud of is with the American Humane Society. We're going to be doing an animal health and welfare series. We've already got 2 of them out, one on parasite management, one on overwintering. We'll be doing several of those over this year, and then we'll be doing a webinar series. So those are some great resources we're developing. I went too fast. This is a map that we have that we kind of wrangle to help folks connect. This shows all of the solar grazers in the country, the certified solar grazers and professionals, solar sites, and then solar companies are able to post RFPs, requests for proposals on here. So if they're looking for a solar grazer, the solar grazer can see that proposal and we can help matchmake. So this is a nice service that we have available, and it just helps with the scale of understanding where this is going on. We also write case studies. We're doing these all around the country. We release about 1 a month of these too. So these are in-depth studies of how a solar grazer established themselves, what it was like, what they learned, what they could share, what this might look like in California versus Texas or New York, or up in other places around the country. We'll be doing these all over the place. In addition to the case studies, we have a whole series of work around films. We have one longer film. It's about 19 minutes long. It's available on YouTube and on our website. Really had great responses to this. It's a good piece to bring to folks that maybe haven't heard about this before. It really shows what it looks like, and it talks about it from the farmer's perspective and from the community perspective. We've had a lot of people give us feedback that, this is great, but could you make one in our neck of the woods? So we're going to be releasing a whole series that is more local. So the first one is in Texas, and it's available now. We'll be releasing Indiana next week, then on to Virginia, California, New York, Minnesota. So we'll be releasing these probably every other month throughout the next year. We also do work in farm to table. Doing the tours, I really saw the difference that it made to be able to sit down and have a meal and celebrate with each other at these solar sites and really break them down from being an industrial space to more of a place of celebration. And so we're going to continue that type of work here. And so we're sharing our recipes, and hopefully this summer and into the fall, we'll be doing some farm to tables in conjunction with our certification workshops. So we'll also be doing some agrivoltaic crop recipes, agrivoltaic honey recipes. So more to come on that, but we'll release those through the website and through our newsletter. So probably not a surprise to anybody here, but sheep grazing can increase the soil health. And they do that through their waste matter that they trample into the earth underneath them, and into trampling some of the vegetation. And it helps increase the biodiversity in the area and support the local ecosystem. This has been said a lot, but there's not really been a lot of studies done in this. So we've had the wonderful opportunity to do that. We did this in partnership with American Farmland Trust, and it was funded by NYSERDA up in New York State. And we looked at a site that was grazed by sheep, and then we compared it to a site that was just mown mechanically. And in 1 year, which is pretty quick to see any difference in soil health, we were able to see a difference. We saw an increase in organic matter, in soil pH, in crude protein, and in pasture condition scores. I have to really give a shout out to Alyssa Andrew. She is my colleague at ASGA that ferried this work through the peer review process. You can find this in Frontiers and Sustainable Food Systems. And I think we also uploaded this to the Agrovoltaicos resource section. So if you want to download that, you can. And we also have this in that area. This is just hot off the presses work that we did with the Nature Conservancy. And I did this with Alyssa and Anna Claire Monlazon. Anna Claire is an amazing researcher in the United States that does great work around agrivoltaics, particularly with solar grazing. And we partnered with the Nature Conservancy to establish microzones, essentially, of where to sample. And we did that after our New York work because what we really saw is a lot of folks are doing soil sampling, but we're not able to compare because we don't know exactly where people are taking the samples. And so what we're proposing is that we all, label them where we took them. That's really what is at the heart of this is, did you take them under the western drip edge, eastern drip edge, underneath the panels, or between the rows? Ideally, it'd be great to get all four. But if you just get one and it's between the rows, label it that way so that then we can compare to other sites that took between the rows. So that's the goal with this. We'll be doing some press around this, but like I say, I think you can download it. It's within the section of the website here. Research in progress, pretty excited about this. I mentioned early on that I did research with dog hair looking at metals contamination. And there's a lot of disinformation in the States anyway around metals contamination and solar. Folks are really concerned about cadmium. There's like a whole Facebook campaign around it. There's really no evidence showing cadmium issues. There's been soil samples that haven't shown this, but I got to thinking about it and I thought, this is a hair study. And so there's different types of sheep. There's wool sheep and hair sheep. And in Virginia, Jess Gray from Gray's Landscaping, that's her down in the bottom photo there. She has this great work that she's doing in Virginia. So we're going to go sample her sheep. We're going to go sample about 100 hair sheep and look and see if there is any reason for concern. And we will correlate that to soil and water samples. We're going to do that in partnership with Virginia Tech and with Virginia Cooperative Extension and with Hannah Varnell. She's a veterinarian and veterinary researcher. That's her in the center photo there. So that work will be coming out. We're doing the samples soon, but I'm sure it'll take several months to get the samples back and go through the peer review and all that stuff. So pretty excited about that coming out. We're hoping we can establish a protocol and do that around the country. We're also going to continue work on animal health and welfare. This is something that's just really near and dear to my heart. And I've been looking at the impact of shade and what it can have for farm workers. The number one cause of death in farm workers in the United States is heat stroke. And I think agrivoltaics is a huge area that can address or at least help with this. When we went around and did the tours, I did skin temperature tests. That's what's in that photo in the bottom. We saw about a 20-degree Fahrenheit drop in the skin temperature test. And I know Thalita did great research on this and just published on this. So I think this is a great area also for animal health and welfare. There has been some nice studies looking at wool temperature drop and skin temperature drop in sheep. And they've shown about a 45-degree drop, which is just phenomenal. And that is also why these sheep are huddling underneath the solar panels everywhere you go in the summer, which is perfect because that is where the forage grows. The forage grows well there because, it is getting better shade, it is getting better water management, less evapotranspiration. And it just shows that perfect marriage of the sheep are there, they're getting better health, they're managing the forage. That's exactly where the forage is growing and where the solar companies need that vegetation management. So we'll continue our research into this work too. And then this isn't exactly happening yet, but we're working on it. But I thought you guys would be interested, given that it's an agrivoltaic group. ASGA is a trade organization, a trade member organization particularly. And in the US, it's kind of getting into the weeds a little, but it's a 501c6 organization, which is a nonprofit, but it's a certain type of nonprofit. We wanted to be a 501c3 or have that capability. So we set up an arm of ASGA, and we just had this approved through the IRS. And now we have a nonprofit arm that is called the American Solar Grazing and Growing Association. And we are planning to support all agrivoltaics with this. ASGA always have. We've done things like the solar grazing contract and done what we can to be supportive of agrivoltaic, but we'll be much more intentional with it now. So again, we're hoping to do international chapters. Would love to talk to folks about anyone interested in working with us on this. So thank you very much. You can follow the QR code to go to our homepage or go to solargrazing.org. You can always email me. I'm at Stacie@solargrazing.org. And I will see you later.
Thank you very much, Stacie, for such an insightful presentation. It was great to learn more about the evolution and impact of solar grazing in the United States. So before moving to our next speaker, we will take a few questions. So please feel free to post your questions in the chat, either in Spanish, Portuguese, or English. We can help translating them. So
Want to kick us off?
yes. So I have a question. I want to know from a soil management perspective, what would be the main trade-offs between these potential benefits of livestock grazing, such as the increased organic inputs you pointed out, and also the associated risks, including like soil compaction and potential changes in soil structure, or maybe shifts in carbon mineralization dynamics?
Sure. So, we haven't really done a lot of research into those other parameters, so I don't really know that I can speak to that. And we basically looked at crude protein, pasture conditions, score, pH. I haven't seen a lot of impact, but what I have is anecdotal, so I don't really feel like I could speak to that from a peer review standpoint.
Okay, thank you. I think Christine has her.
Sure. Yeah, well, I'll ask my question that gives you guys time to put your questions in the chat box. Stacie, it's really, really impressive how much uptake there's been of solar grazing in the US. From the farmer's perspective, what have been the main kind of barriers, but also like incentives for them for getting into solar grazing?
Sure. I think at first it's getting that first contract is what we hear from folks is, they want to get into this. They want to know how to do it. And so that's where we've really centered ASGA in mentorship so that we can partner them with existing solar grazers, learn how they did it, try to get connections with solar companies. But that's also why we stood up the certification programs so that they have something that they can show people, I've taken this seriously. I know how to do this. I've been on a solar site. I've worked with solar companies. And then through the mentoring, they're able to subcontract with them, or they're able to go and work on their site for a while. So we're seeing that's one of the barriers. Another is just the barrier to entry of farming in general, right? So that it's expensive. It takes a lot of time. People have probably a day job too. So we're working on ways to help with that. But I think that solar grazing itself is a way for people to get into this. They might have a very small farm, but to increase the size of their flock, they're able to do that on a solar grazing site or by contracting with another solar grazer. Then they can get that mentoring relationship and really grow their size so that then they're able to go and work on a larger site on their own.
Okay, we have a few questions in the chat. So on average, how many weeks or months do sheep graze under the solar panels before there is a measurable difference in the soil?
Soil, it takes a long time. I was surprised that we saw reactions in a year. So I think what I would like to see is more longitudinal studies of like 5-year studies. I know every researcher says that, more research needed, but I would be hesitant to say less than a year.
Okay, perfect. So another question from Augusto Diaz. How do you usually work when trying new technologies with companies or startups?
It depends. There's been several different startups that are working like in cattle grazing, for instance. So we've been trying to highlight them within webinars. We've been trying to make connections for them with grazers that might want to try it. I'm really interested in multi-species grazing, so places where we could have cattle and sheep, see how that could work. Different types of agrivoltaic design. We've tried to have them on our webinars, share them with our members. I think that we'll highlight them in case studies. So it is really understanding what they need and how we can help connect them through our network and get them, if it's a mentoring, maybe that's what we do. So mostly it's just understanding what they need and how we can support them.
Oh, perfect. Another question from Greg, and then I can open the microphone to Eduardo. He raised it hand. So who does the certification? And
Sure.
there are American Solar Grazing Association staff that go verify a place when conducting the processes appropriately?
So it's not the site, Greg, it's the grazers. So we're certifying grazer, and we would like to go where you're talking about because we've thought about this from like a lead, like how lead does a building. We're thinking about that, but it's a little bit bigger thought. Right now, we are certifying solar grazers themselves to be certified, and then solar professionals. So a solar company person. So there's two types of grazer certifications, but not one for the site. I think for the site, we'd really have to think about the verification process. It's kind of like when you would have an organic certification. I think that'd be a much bigger task. And then how do we get out to all these sites? Because there's so many. And then what about when they change hands? That's something we've thought about because they get sold all the time.
Roughly how many hours of training is someone getting to be called certified? Are they passing a test at the end?
Yeah, it's a 3-day certification program right now. And then this next series that we're going to announce tomorrow, we'll be doing virtual prerequisites to try to take the burden off of the travel for folks, because especially farmers, they can't get away for 5 days. So we're going to try to do them in partnership with some things they might be going to anyway, like an RE Plus or a different type of conference. But, the equivalent of about a week.
Okay. Yeah, we've been working on different course ideas for practitioners versus researchers. And as always, I'd love to talk to you more. So thanks.
Yeah, we should. I've been talking with a couple other folks on noodling on some ideas more for working with FFA and how we could work with younger folks that are doing this. I think there's a huge space for that.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Thank you, Greg.
So we have 2 more questions in the chat. One is, can you say something about the quality of the wool and meat that the growers are obtaining in these production systems?
I can say a little. There's not been a lot of research done around that, so I'm speaking from what I'm hearing. The one good piece of research that I've seen on wool quality was done by Lightsource BP, and they did this in Australia on merino wool. And they showed an improvement on quality of the merino wool, and they attributed that to less stress, and the stress being less from predation because these are in fenced-in areas with guard dogs and a grazer, but also less with the stress of the heat. So I think a lot more research is needed in that, and I know Nick Armentrout from our group would really love to do that research, and I'd like to do it with them. We'd also like to look at wool clothing and agrivoltaic clothing and maybe how that could be helpful. A lot of the folks on solar sites have to wear arc flash clothing. It's really hot and it's not breathable. And it would be wonderful if we could be doing agrivoltaic wool clothing that was more breathable for them. Quality of the meat, I anecdotally here, I have not seen a test on this, that it is good quality. There are people that like the Grays that I showed in Virginia that are selling their agrivoltaic, and they're selling out of it. So they're doing very well with this. We work with the American Lamb Board, and they set a lot of quality parameters around meat, and they've given us favorable reviews as well. But no studies have been done on that to my knowledge.
Perfect. So another question, how difficult is to get large-scale solar utility companies to be willing to try grazing for land management rather than, say, herbicides?
They're very open to this, and some companies are and some companies aren't, I should say, but some companies, this is their best practice. All of their work is done this way. So there's a lot of large scale solar grazing going on in the country. Companies like Lightsource BP, which is being led by Lexi Heen, is their agrivoltaics leader there. That's what they're doing whenever they can. There's areas that it's not appropriate. Maybe it's too wet for the sheep and they would get parasites. But we are seeing it in places like Louisiana, but it's being done very carefully. There's companies like NL that are doing this around the country. So this is happening in California. There's some huge sites, Texas, the same. So I think too, once the company has done this and seen that this works, if they have a person that's able to manage this, that goes a lot better. And that's a lot of why we're interested in certifying more people and telling these stories and really familiarizing folks with this. Cost is also always a big thing. So, they need to understand that there is a cost associated with the grazing. They're performing a service. So, it has to pencil out for companies, but it also really helps them get permits. There's been studies that were done by Lawrence Berkeley National Lab that showed a 75% increase in social license to operate when it is an agrivoltaic site. The agrivoltaic sites they tested in this were solar grazing or solar pollinator habitat with beekeeping. So it really makes a difference in getting those permits, and it lessens the time that they're stuck in permits. So they're saving money on that too, on top of the vegetation management, it can be cost comparable to mowing or herbicides, but it can cost more. It just depends on where it is and the complexity of the site. If they need to set up a well, if they need to put in fencing, there's a lot to this. So it's different for each company, but they are very open to it.
Very interesting. So we have one last question from the chat, and then we can go with Eduardo. I know he raised his hand. I don't know if he's still here. But how are the panels handled if they are constantly being moved around? I don't know if this is about the rotational grazing or the recovery of the forage. And
Oh, sure. We set up paddocks around. Maybe that's the question. So the sheep are very good at just going under and around. It works fine with a fixed system or with a tilt mount system. Sheep are just perfect for this. They're not jumping on the panels. They go under and around. They'll forage and they will get that vegetation. And like I mentioned earlier, they love the shade. So they'll get under and around the panels that way. They know the sound. They learn very quickly the sound of the panel moving. And they will move away from that. But the grazers themselves set up paddocks so they can rotationally graze. Hopefully that answered that.
Perfect. So I don't know if there's any more questions. So if not, we can go ahead with the presentation of our next speaker.
Thank you, Stacie.
Thank you very much, Stacie.
Thank you, guys.
And for answering all our questions and doubts. So we can go ahead, I think, with the presentation of our next speaker, which is Rodrigo Panham from EDP Renewables Brazil. Thank you, Rodrigo, for your presentation, and I can take your questions throughout the presentation in Spanish, Portuguese, and English.
Okay. Thank you, Thalita, and thanks everyone for this invite. Right, it's been very, very nice to see how organized and how US is over this topic of agrivoltaic and talking about the chips. I say it's incredible, this organization. So my presentation here will be focused more on cost reduction. That was just what Stacie said a few minutes ago when she said that big companies like ADP, if you were working with large scale PV power plants, and how we look into that, because indeed vegetation control for us is an strategic topic, not only OEM details in terms of OpEx, because it's very complexity and very costly. So when I will show some pictures here in my presentations, and indeed you understand how it pans for us. So first of all, let me share my screen here. Right.
Looks good.
Looks good?
Mhm.
Okay, okay, let's go ahead. So first of all, just really 10 seconds introduction here concerning about ADP. ADP is a worldwide company for energy generation and networks. So we are spread around the world in 30 countries, split it in 5 hubs around the world. So today we have 29 gigawatts installed generation capacity. We have for that 130 of this 90 gigawatts installed in North America. So here is what you have in Brazil. So we are today running 1.7 gigawatts of capacity installation. And this red circle we have here is where our case will be showed here for you guys. So I start my presentation here with a question as what drove us to adopt sheep farming in our utility scale, right? So when I will just set a picture to understand why we should look for options. I would say that for that. So this is all of infrastructure we had 2 years ago in order to keep the vegetation control in Pereira Barreto, which is the name of this PV power plants. So you can imagine how much is the OPEX related to that. So we are talking about 90 tractors. How many people? Around 39 people every day on site to perform vegetation control only. There is a complexity limitation, I would say, for that, right? We have limitations on the conventional approach. So we have high costs for that. With dependence of machinery, operational risks. This is a big issue that we have running at these methods. We had a lot of accidents, people hurt doing this activity. Why? Because they are walking in a soil not appropriate, sometimes with some vehicles, sometimes with pieces of stone around. So, and then the lemon is just split in this and can hurt someone. So a lot of limitations that we have. Chemical control also is an issue because we don't want to provide a lot of herbicides in the soil. It doesn't make good to the soil and not good for vegetation stabilizations and erosion control. And this is that's why we have this kind of limitations using the traditional method of grazing, right? We have an additional complexity in this region, which is motivate us to look for options, is that the average rainfall in the area is around 1,500 to 2,100 millimeters in 6 months, right? So the rain period at this area is huge. We have a lot of hydrology. We have just for example, we have 3 big hydropowers that on that region. It's because of we have a lot of rain in the region, right? So it becomes very difficult to us because the vegetation grow up so fast, right? And before the implantation of this PV plant, it was sugarcane vegetation. So the sugarcane-like species that we have that are those that grow up so high, so in fast. So we make some studies in the past, and we could reach around 5 centimeters per day the grow up of this kind of species of vegetation. So that's why it's impossible to maintain like OPEX with this amount of people every day on site to handle it. It's impossible, right? There is no business case or financial model that would support that. So after that, so then we go to looking for options, and one of that was the sheep grazing, using the sheep to make this job for us. So and then it's some current project data that we have today. So it's the current figures that you have of this of the project right now. We was implemented in September 2024. We started in the past only with 50 chips. Now we are 845 chips on the site, right? This amount is sufficient. It can vary year by year. We are exploring yet this activity, but at average, it's enough to handling about 68 hectares for vegetation control, right? Nowadays, we have 3 employees dedicated for that in one border quarter, which also support activities on site. And this is important to mention that when you were talking about a large scale like this, there is a huge effort to maintain that. That's why 3 employees, and if you want to grow up, we need to increase this amount of people, because nowadays we have both methods at site. Sorry, we have the method of mechanical traditional, and also we have the sheep grazing. So and then we have a lot of efforts concerning the fences, right? Because each 2 days more or less is where the sheep can move to the area by area in order to grazing the area, right? So, and it demands a lot of manual efforts for a while, right? And then we are looking for different approach in order to make this variable cost to avoid this kind of variable cost to our partner. So this is just to show some videos here. So this is the video where Pereira Barreto, which is our site. Sorry for that. There is one slide here that was just jumped. I don't know why, because I'd like to show the size of this site. So we are talking about here. Also, I don't know why it was. Maybe I delete that. Let me check here. Sorry for that. But just to want to show to say to you that the size of this site is 490 hectares, right? 492 hectares. This site which we want to handle this sheep grazing, right? So we also have here our border collar, which is called Shakira, which is our partner here to support them and activities on site. So this is the area where we have this kind of infirmary, right? Because we have a lot of chips that sometimes comes from another farms, right? So and then we set this place some days before to go to the other flock in order to avoid dissemination of another disease and this kind of stuff. right? And how sheep grazing reduce OpEx in Pereira Barreto. So, and this is the tricky point here because we, as a energy company, we are not familiar to go over and to handle this kind of activities, right? We need a partner for that. We need associations like Stacie's direct, because it's so it's different words, right? For handling this. So that's why we go over to develop a business model, a business model for this environment here, right? So I just prepared this table here to demonstrate with the costs we are associated for this. So in the traditional method, we have employee infrastructure, fuel, rental equipments, HAS requirements, water supply, capex for water supply, and land rental, right? So if you go to sheep grazing, we don't have this kind of infrastructure, right? So um, the business model we understand that works a lot in this kind of utility scale is we, as a owner of the land, we just share the land, or we borrow the land at a zero cost and give to the rural producer to utilize the surface for grazing for activities, right? And then they can do everything they want. If they want to put 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 chips, it's a dairy area, right? They can do everything they want. And the revenue from this livestock commercialization is completely for their responsible, right? So, and where we can as a utility to saving costs. So we can reduce the amount or the current contract in a traditional method, right? As far as we progress and we scale the number of the chips and the area handled by the chips, we can reduce our infrastructure for this traditional method. And this is worthwhile a lot, right? We understand this a very advantage for both sides, because the thing is, which is maybe difficult to a farmer, is to provide water. It's and how you can provide water to the chips. And then we're looking for that on that PV, because we have water in abundance on that area. So we have artesian wells on site. So it for us it's like a zero cost, right? And the land of the rental, the land, there's no incremental cost under these both scenarios, because we also pay rental to the landowner to have the PV plant, right? So this doesn't make so. And we, as a partner, we all of water supply, the capex necessary for that, for example, for tanks or to something to move to get the water close to the flock, we handle this. We pay for that. So then it's a partnership, right? So this is the model we are utilizing here in order to saving costs in this kind of utility scale. Right. Well, Stacie already said a lot of benefits of the soil, right? So here just a comparison what we have handled today in the site, but I was just to highlight in the perspective of energy production. For us is the soil stabilization, right? When we have sheep grazing, we can have the root systems help to blind the soil, so we can avoid erosions. So erosions is so critical for us because it can affect the angle of the panels and so on. So, and that's why we see only advantage using these systems, including to energy productions, and avoid issues on that. But not everything is flowers. We have our challenge for that. But is this the challenge? The challenge using first of all the complexity of the where we are now, and also and the rural producer or the farmer perspective, right? So I think I would highlight the slaughtering capacity. So this is an issue, right? Because um, as I said, it's a business model, right? So the owner of the chips needs to commercialize these chips each 4 months, 4 to 5 months, which is the date of which is the meat is good yet to human consume. So and then we don't have too much slaughtering capacity around the area, right? Even in Brazil, in the state of Sao Paulo, which is the most development state, this culture are not so much developed yet, right? We don't have too much the consume of this kind of meat in this area, which is the opposite if you go to the south of Brazil, in the region of Rio Grande do Sul state, which is most common for that, right? Then we could take more slaughtering capacity around. The logistic costs would be lower than that. And Brazil is a continental, it's a big country, right? So we are talking about to go to the state of Rio Grande do Sul. It's around 2,000 kilometers, right, to go there. So then it's become very difficult in the logistic standpoint. In addition to that, the viability of local flock suppliers. It's another topic because um, those chips that we have in the site are those which was born in that area, right? So chips is a very, I would say, low humidity. Know if you understand me, low humidity. So there is not if you bring chips from the other state, for example, the state of Rio Grande do Sul to Sao Paulo, uh, it, it can may not survive, right? We have a lot of experimental about that. So all of the area we need to have those flocks developed in this area. So this is become difficult to escalate, right? So it's some of the issues that we have, and we have too much producers in the area, so it becomes very, very difficult to do so. Um, Animal behavior, I would classify that it's is an issue, it's a challenge, but not so much difficult for that. It's a selective grazing preference. Sometimes the chips prefer of course, to eat specific vegetation, but it's normal that the soil can produce a different vegetation, can grow a different vegetation in the area. So we need to control that. We need to go there and manipulate the soil and make something to eradicate this vegetation. So. In another topic is the performance during dry seasons, right? We have although we have a lot of rain seasons in the area, we also have dry seasons in the same area. So and then it becomes it was something that we passed it last year, where we don't have too much vegetation to the chips, and then we need to go to buy hay, hay, right? AHAY for those chips. So and then we can handle that. So in the end, the message is that it's not a plug-and-play solutions, right? And going to sheep farming is not cheap a plug-and-play solution. It's an operation, right? And we understand that which can be it must to be a strategical topic than a alternative for cost reductions. Okay, Okay, guys, that's all I have to share for you today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Thank you for your presentation, your participation in the seminar. And so let's begin with the questions from the chat. So let me see. Okay, we have a question from Juan Garcia. Se você já quantificou os custos devido à erosão do solo nessa planta fotovoltaica com essa ação mecânica, com cegado mecânico. Isso pergunta a Juan Garcia Faure. Se você já quantificou os custos da erosão do solo nessa planta fotovoltaica.
Not really, well, because we're not compare. I would say we face this is in other sites, right? Of course, there is a lot of topic. Sometimes we maintain the contract, civil contract maintenance, which cover those activities, right? So then we don't have to pay extra for that. We only have this kind of issues that you have an erosion, you just need to fix that. But as if you have an issue for that, of course, we lost energy because the erosion can cause a different angle in the panel. So then it could be an issue for the generation. So, but we don't have this studied yet that concern that because our contracted method don't have to pay extras when you get erosions, right?
Okay. And Rodrigo, you showed us this site in Pereira Barreto in São Paulo, but do you have sheep grazing also in the northeast of Brazil, in the arid and semi-arid environment?
No, we don't have. I heard some experimental in the area, but not in large scale, right? Because of the humidity of the chips, um, they do not survive in the area, right?
Okay.
Would be very difficult to survive on that area. So and also the vegetation on that area is completely different from the southeast and the south of Brazil, right? So we have caatinga, right, which is a different. It's not a soft vegetation, which make it easy to the sheep, right? It's different.
And just a curiosity, do you have any kind of damage or challenge with the implementation of these sites in Southeast because of these big windstorms that we have in the state of São Paulo, or it doesn't affect these sites?
No, it does affect the sides. It does affect.
So if you have any questions in the chat is open. If you have questions to Rodrigo. Se tem custo aproximado do sistema agrovoltaico por hectare no terreno? É uma pergunta da Abigail Gonzalez. Custo aproximado do sistema agrovoltaico por hectare.
Por hectare in which method you said? So in the traditional one?
De sistema agrovoltaico, eu imagino que deve ser o... Abigail, si quieres complementar tu pregunta o poner un poco más de detalle, basta abrir tu micrófono para preguntar, porque nos queda la duda si es el método convencional o el sistema con el pastoreo de ganado.
Sí, ¿me escuchan?
Sí.
Sí, te escucho.
En un sistema con pastoreo y bueno, no sé qué área del terreno se cubra, pero
Claro,
aproximadamente.
ese sistema por pastoreo, nosotros de hecho no tenemos ningún coste. ¿Por qué? Porque hay este método de negocio, nosotros apenas le alquilamos a cero coste la tierra. Entonces, todas las obligaciones, toda la gestión, toda la operación, toda la facturación es de responsabilidad de un partner, de un parcero comercial. Entonces, de un granjero. ¿Ah? Entonces, por eso no tenemos coste asociados a esto. Si formos cambiar para un método tradicional de manejo, y es claro que o ejemplo de Pereira Barreto es un ejemplo muy específico, porque es un ejemplo de una situación muy crítica por cuenta de la vegetación que se crece muy rápida y está en un ambiente de mucho calor y de mucha lluvia. ¿Ah? Entonces, imagina por la velocidad de crecimiento de la planta. Entonces, por ahí estamos a cerca de $2,000 a mes.
Perfecto.
Gracias.
Gracias, Abigail. Y nos pregunta Adrián si hay planes de aplicar ese modelo de las plantas de EDP en otros países.
Sí, yo creo que sí. Yo creo que esto depende mucho más del ambiente, ¿eh? Depende de cómo las ovejas tiene, si es condicionable para las ovejas. Creo que es totalmente posible. En verdad, este es un tema que no es nuevo, incluso en Europa y incluso en el sur de South América, digamos en Argentina, en Uruguay, ya se utiliza mucho ovejas en estas áreas, pero traducir esto en un país tropical como Brasil, que es un desafío, que tenemos mucho calor y ahí es un poco más sencillo para ellas, entonces eso se queda un poco más difícil.
Perfect. Any other questions from the audience? So if not, thank you very much, Rodrigo. Gracias, obrigada
Ah, obrigado a vocês.
por tu participación.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
So, I don't know if Christine wants to show us, but she's not in her computer anymore.
I'm in,
Something about the registration, right?
luckily I was able to move to Greg's office. I'm afraid to touch my computer in case it closes the meeting for everybody. Georgi, are you still here with us?
Yep, I'm here.
Can I ask you to do what I was going to do, which is quickly show people again the website and where they can find the recording of today's talk, the files that Stacie shared, some of those documents?
Sure, just give me a second. I don't have it open at
Yeah,
hand,
thanks.
but
I'm putting you on the
yeah.
spot.
It's okay.
I'm afraid to touch my computer.
All right, 1 second. Let me see if I can share this. Okay. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm actually the creator of the website, so hopefully I can show you what we need to show. As you can see, this talk that we had today is already grayed out. That's because it's past. But as with any talk in the future or in the past, you can see it on the website. So the ones coming up, you'll see here. And when you click on a talk, you get an outline of the talk itself. There's a forum for each of the talks. And you can see for this talk, we had multiple additional files uploaded, some information about the talk itself. And as you would guess, if you look at an archive, you can see previous talks and you can actually watch the recordings, which hopefully in the future we'll have the translations. So that will hopefully be really useful as well. The main thing I want to show right now is actually if you're already part of the network, it would really go a long way if you could just go into your profile and fill in the information. And the reason being is that the more of this information that you fill in, for example, your country, your affiliation, maybe some research interests, maybe website, this goes a long way in actually fleshing out the functionality of the platform. You can see here people that have included their image. You can click on it, you can get someone's email, You can get their Google Scholar. You can see their research interests. And, we can see here, like, we have 265 members now. And, depending on your interest, if we have more people filling these tags, you could use this actually to network between each other. For now, it's limited to just, information. You can get an email. You could email them yourself. But, maybe in the future, if there's demand, we can create some sort of chat system, something like that. For example, if you organize right now by country, you can see we have a lot of participants from different countries. I think if everyone filled in their profile, this would look quite different, because I think a lot of people have not completed their profile information. And I think the last thing I'm going to show, there's a new feature, which is quite exciting. I just added it today, basically. But based on all the people that are in this network, you can actually click on something. Maybe we'll change the name. For now, it's Scholar. And excuse me here, it's going to take a second to load because I wasn't prepared. But basically, using the member network, this creates basically a local scholar network. And you can see the publications of the people that are participants in the network. It's just, let's say, in the beginning stages of being created. So if there's some problems, please mention it. But here, hopefully, sorry, again, I wasn't ready to show this, but hopefully here in the next 30 seconds, I can kind of show you how this works. It's pretty exciting. Basically, using the people in the network, I use something called OpenAlex. And if you're not familiar with OpenAlex, I encourage you to check it out. It's basically an open source alternative to Web of Science and Web of Knowledge. They have more actual citation. They have more resources, I would say, than either of those. And basically, we're using the actual publications of the people in the network, and you can use this. For example, maybe I'm interested in Stacie Peterson. We could see she's from the American Solar Grazing Association, and we can see previous publications that are associated with her. Probably the most interesting thing about this is there's this relevance threshold, and I won't get into how it works, but basically you can use this slider to either narrow or expand the filtering for agrivoltaics. And so if you go the further right you go, the more the terms have to be associated with agrivoltaics. And if you go all the way to the left, then that means we're just taking 100 members and we're not filtering for agrivoltaics basically at all. And this becomes really useful if you want to see the kind of work that's being done amongst the people in the network. If you just want to learn maybe about work being done at University of Arizona, you could click that and you could see the people that are publishing from the University of Arizona and the kind of publications that they have. I guess one last thing I'll do, when you click on something, if the abstract exists on OpenAlex, it's available, so you can preview something, and then you can actually go and click and go to the DOI and actually go to where the publication itself is. Okay, that's pretty much everything, but please fill in your profile.
Georgie, they are asking us, how can you type the name of the platform again? OpenAlex?
Yep, I will include it right now in the chat, please.
The website is avsinfronteras.org. I think I did it wrong the first time.
Oh.
avsinfronteras.org. And there you can also find in the Archivo section, you'll be able to see all the previous seminars that we've had. The recording of this will eventually be in YouTube. Just give me a day or two and it'll be there. And you'll see that recording link will be on this talk. So if you missed it today, you can find it there. Or if you missed the previous ones on crop productivity or the launch, you can find those videos on the website. And we'll be using that kind of as we go forward in the platform.
And it includes a discussion section?
Discussion, you can have a discussion there. You can see the files that have been shared. So for example, Stacie had some of the guidelines that American Solar Grazing Organization has produced. Those are on the files tab for today's seminar. You can find them there. And Adrián, I can't share my screen, but maybe you can just
I think you
announce.
can,
Oh,
actually.
can we?
Yeah.
We can announce the one for next week, and then yeah, thank you.
Yep.
This
2 weeks from now, right?
2 weeks from now, yes.
And then, yep, we have this.
Okay. Oh, see, you have the same bug I have.
Oh,
Okay. Okay. Adrián, por favor.
oh, you're muted. Yeah.
Sí, bueno, muchas gracias. Muchas gracias a todos los asistentes. Es reconfortante ver la respuesta y todo lo que hacemos nosotros en el comité, pues no tiene sentido a menos que ustedes estén aquí. Así que muchas gracias por responder al llamado. Y nuestras próximas pláticas son sobre la dinámica del agua en agrivoltaica. Es el 24 de febrero y estarán presentando Fernando Canepele de la Universidad de Sao Paulo y Miguel Ángel Guevara de UNAM-IER y RAMe de México. Esperamos que este tópico obviamente tiene gran relevancia, como nos acabamos de enterar con la plática de Rodrigo. El agua es, pues puede ser una bendición o una maldición dependiendo de la cantidad que nos cae. Pero aquí vamos a hablar de temas de cómo su interacción con la agrivoltaica es algo muy ventajoso. Muchas gracias a todos. Thalita, your turn.
Muchas gracias a todos. Sí conozco al profesor doctor Fernando Canepele. Es una profesora asociada en la Universidad de São Paulo y que nos va a presentar unos ejemplos prácticos en Brasil de proyectos en la región semiárida donde hay ahorros de agua muy importantes e incremento de la productividad en sistemas agrovoltaicos. También sobre el impacto de la eficiencia del agua, incremento en la retención de agua en el suelo, el beneficio que tiene el sombreado por los paneles fotovoltaicos en la reducción de evapotranspiración, un mejor microclima para los cultivos. Entonces, pues muy interesados de escuchar su plática. Y el Miguel Ángel Guevara, no sé si lo quieres presentar, Adrián, brevemente, para que se interesen ahí por el tema de nuestra próxima serie que será en 2 semanas. Entonces, aquí los
Sí, claro
espero
que sí.
para la próxima plática.
Con mucho gusto, Miguel Ángel Guevara es un recientemente estudiante de doctorado del Instituto de Energía de la UNAM y pues va a mostrarnos su experiencia con un sistema agrovoltaico en una comunidad rural en México y cómo el manejo del agua, que es algo crítico para los habitantes de esta parte donde él está trabajando, que es en Xochimilco, pues representa un riesgo para la salud y la ventaja que tiene la agrovoltaica para convertir este bien potencial en un bien real.
Muchas gracias a todos por su asistencia y acá los esperamos en 2 semanas.
Thanks
Sí,
everyone for being
aquí
here
estamos.
today.
Muchas gracias.
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.